Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. So we got a lot of ideas already about our inner journey towards a great cause. And we discussed yesterday points relating to faith and doubt. Today we began with the idea of fear. And again we found a twin, fear and anxiety. And we are dealing with that. We have said that practical application of ideas would help us more than understanding things theoretically. In the Yoga Sutras, we have seen that they have given a nice antidote to our wrong tendencies. Yoga Sutra is one of the very practical scriptures that Hinduism has. Swami Vivekananda calls it science of religion because it is very applied. The first sutra in the Yoga Sutra says that Atha Yoga Anushasanam. Anushasanam means instruction, not theoretical but practical. In the yoga schools, what we see? In the Hatha Yoga schools, the teacher performs by himself or herself the postures that brings a great hope in the minds of students. And then the students start practicing. Yoga Sutra also is a kind of study or book that demands practice, that demands understanding by practice, not by theory. Atha Yoga Anushasanam. Anushasanam word can be interpreted this way: Shasanam Anushasanam. After the instructions are given, the practice which is taken up is called yoga. Generally speaking, the word yoga means yoking, like two bullocks are yoked or connected. Actually speaking, in Yoga Sutra, the etymological meaning of the word yoga does not hold good. This we must know. Most of the time, we think that Yoga Sutra, by the word yoga, means connection. It is not a connection, it is a disconnection. Disconnection. We have to get out of the bondage caused by Prakriti. That means that is a disconnection. Yoga Sutra itself says the same thing in the second chapter. And Gita very elaborately and generously mentions the same thing. Tang Vidya Dukkha samyoga viyogam yoga samgitam. Dukkha samyoga viyogam. We are connected with this world which is nothing but suffering. Who said that? Buddha said this. Dukkham eva sarvam. This world is nothing but suffering, suffering, suffering. Buddha said. Yoga Sutra also repeated the same thing, but it added a beautiful interpretation to this. Dukkham eva sarvam vivekinaha. It is, this world is nothing but suffering for those who are discerning persons, who are able to differentiate between what is eternal and what is ephemeral, what is unreal, what is real. For that person only, this world is a place of suffering. So, dukkha samyoga viyogam. We have been connected with this world. When we are disconnected, viyogam means disconnected from this, that is called yoga. Tang vidya dukkha samyoga viyogam yoga sangitam. Yoga Sutra also says the same thing in its aphorism, maybe number 25 in second chapter. So, in the first verse of the first chapter, Yoga Sutra says that Anushasana, Shasana Anu, if we do not practice, do not try to get out of the trap ourselves, then we don't get out of it. That is the understanding. Then Yoga Sutra says what is the way to get out of this suffering. Then it says that yoga chitta vritti nirodha. Yoga means cessation of modifications of the mind. Now see how considerate these scriptures are. The second aphorism does not say that yoga sarva chitta vritti nirodha. No, sarva word has not been used. Why? Any kind of attempt, however small it may be, will be called yoga. A great inspiration indeed. We sometimes suffer from this, that we are not competent enough. We are not competent enough because we can't do much. I remember in one of his lectures, Swami Ramakrishna mentioned that yogi, the concept of yogi is that the yogi achieves 100% of the yoga, 100% of the yoga instructions. But he said, no. Even if we are able to perform 1%, we will be called yogis. But with one condition, that this 1% should be uniformly 1%. If I am truthful, well, 1% truthful, then it should be 1% uniformly. Means in the temple, shrine or churches we are 1% truthful. But in our workplaces we are minus 200% truthful. That does not justify our life in yoga. We should not feel bad that we are not able to perform 100%. One cannot perform 100% in the beginning. If we want to be beginners, then we have to begin at the level of the beginners. 100% is the end of our achievement. So why should we feel defeated if we are not able to perform 100%? Yoga Sutra calls any kind of effort, applied instructions to be yoga because it is a great inspiration. You are on the way. A baby learns how to walk. All seniors will be encouraging, saying, wonderful, you are able to take 2 steps. Encouraging. But you have started walking. That is the truth, that is the practice. Continue to do that, continue encouraging. So yoga chitta vritti nirodha, it does not say sarva chitta vritti nirodha. Then it says, it can be done by the practice of what? No, when there a impure thought comes up in your mind, strike it down. That is the idea, nirodha. Try to remove that thought from the mind. That is a kind of aggressive approach to the practice. This is possible, this is most aggressive, but it is the quickest method. If we engage all our energies to it, then we will achieve success quickly. That is the rule. If we are driving from here towards New York, if we drive straight away from here to New York, we will reach there in 4 hours. But well, we like to take exits. Coffee exits, tea exits, gas exits, all exits we take. We are allowed to do that, but the thing is that we cannot reach New York in 4 hours. We delay our journey. So the aggressive way is fine, but it is not meant for all. All are not competent to take it up. That is why Sri Krishna in the Gita warns, saying that they will suffer from a lot of difficulties and obstructions. They become prominent, and the obstructions will also be bigger. Klesho dhikatarastesham avyakta sattvachetasam. Those who follow this type of path, while living in this world, suffering from miseries, at the same time denying the existence of miseries, denying the existence of suffering, practically, then they suffer more. Sri Ramakrishna says, you may say many times, there is no thorn, there is no prick of thorn. But what happens? When the thorn pricks, you shout, cry out in pain. That is fear. Therefore, Yoga Sutra comes out with 7 alternatives. It gives 7 alternative suggestions, positive suggestions. Fill out the mind. Fill up the mind with good thoughts, positive thoughts. That helps us to remove, means to not to allow any space for the impure thoughts to come. This is the easiest solution. And it provides or suggests 7 alternatives. Most of the time we become a little bit arrogant to say that this is the only way. But then consider the Yoga Sutras, which understands our difficulties and our competence, and it provides or suggests 7 alternatives. I think the 7 alternatives are made for 99% of people. Most of us are not competent to take up a very aggressive way. So among these 7 of the alternatives, there is one alternative, a wonderful one. It uses the word va, alternatives. It says, Vishayavati va pravritti utpanna manasasthiti nibandhani. Vishayavati. Vishaya means whatever an object in this world you find. Take it up. Concentrate on that, fill your mind with that thought. This is very ordinary, materialistic idea. Take it up, concentrate on that. Then you will achieve success. How? How is it possible? I am not concentrating on any spiritual thing. Yoga Sutra says that these are easy things which you can start practicing. And what will happen? That will bring you success immediately within a short time. That encourages you to take up harder programs. So Vishayavati va pravritti utpanna manasaha sthiti nibandhani. Then the mind will be much attracted and concentrated. One of our teachers used to give an example. I tried with that several times. Many of us have the experience of a ceiling fan. And if I am sitting here, the ceiling fan is going on, that fan creates a white noise, a regular frequency noise. It does not disturb us. But then if you ask me, close your eyes and locate the noise, then immediately I will close my eyes and say it is there. Where are you hearing the sound? Yes. Actually speaking, the sound is heard on our eardrums, which is very much here, not there. This illusion is created that we are hearing the sound, they are not here. But let us try to concentrate on the eardrum several times. Then we will be able to place that sound on our eardrum. Then the mind in the process comes back into the body. I tried to practice this in a different way. The cars would be passing by and the Doppler effect says that you will be hearing the noise like this and it is slowly getting reduced. So, concentrate on the sound when it is going away. And you will be able to hear that sound for a long distance and for a longer time. But if we concentrate several times, we will see that we will be able to differentiate our own sound, which is the car which we are following, from other sounds, other cars. Try it out and you will see. The scriptures give an example of several students joining in a choir group or singing together. The parents know the voice of their child. They will be able to identify the voice of their child even in the midst of so much of noise together, because they have followed that frequency for a long time. And therefore it is easy to differentiate. Initially it will be difficult, but it is easy to differentiate that particular sound. Therefore, when you try to practice these things, Vishayavati, they are nothing but material things. If we try with that, then our success will be quicker. That inspires us to take up harder alternatives. So see the consideration on the part of the scriptures. They consider our competence and try to come out with a lot of alternatives. Try this. And you will be amazed to see that the last seventh alternative, the last alternative, is something very, very wonderful. It says that yatha avimata dhyanadva, or pick up anything, whatever you like. Yatha avimata, whatever you like. Concentrate on that. Fill up your mind with that thought. Whatever you like. The Yoga Sutra is not suggesting anything for you. You choose your own idea. Start concentrating on that. The idea is start practicing. Practice only will be able to fulfill the promises which have been promised by the scriptures or those processes. Therefore, we need to practice those things. Now, we were discussing the idea of our choosing, seeking and avoiding. We seek or want happiness and we want to get rid of or avoid suffering. This we were discussing, and we said that seeking and avoiding these two things are relative terms. They are different in case of every individual. The second point about that is that this seeking and avoiding, they are our biological necessity. We evolved because we knew how to choose and what to avoid. At different levels of our evolution, this struggle went on. Selection, struggle for existence, survival of the fittest. These things all speak of our choosing and avoiding. That is why we could grow. And we have grown to this stage, to this species, which is called human species and Homo sapiens. Choosing and avoiding, they are there in our genes. They are genetic imprints. We have to choose and avoid. Otherwise, progress in any field is not possible. In the field of business, they talk of gain and loss, risk and reward. All these things are nothing but choosing and avoiding. But most of the time, our choosing and avoiding gain and loss calculation or risk and reward calculation depends on some material things. How much dollar we will win, how much we will lose, how much gain we will have in terms of dollar, how much loss we will have in terms of dollar. Like that. What kind of risk is there? That too in terms of our properties, wealth. But we never think of what loss is there if we are not able to realize the goal of our life. Have you ever thought of that? Did any kind of system in this world which we take up our parents encourage, our society value, have ever emphasized this need? We are called Homo sapiens, wise people. Have we ever thought? Have we asked a question about our own self? Have we ever dared to meet ourselves inside us? Then how are we called wise people? So, we have to seek that which has a permanent value. Dollar value can be there today, tomorrow it is no more there. And everyone, including the king or the richest man in the world, have to part with all these things one day. Therefore, the scriptures say, look at the ultimate value for which you are here and which will help you to know who you are, and that will help you to remain steady in the face of all gains and loss and other things. Have you ever asked? The Vedanta Upanishad brings out that idea. In a sentence, in the Upanishad, Yajnavalkya talks with Gargi, and he says, Yo va etad aksharam Gargi aviditva asmat lokat praiti sakripana. The person who quits this world, leaves this world without knowing himself or herself, is called a miser. What is the definition of a miser? The person who lives a poor man's life so that he or she dies as a rich person is called a myself. The idea is that we have not put into use the resources which were available to us in this life. We are misers. Upanishads do not use unparliamentary words. They don't call us fools. They say, you are misers. You have not put into use the resources which were available to you. That is the loss. And the second sentence says, Yova etadaksharam gargi viditva. The first sentence says, without knowing aviditva. Second sentence says, viditva, knowing, asmat lokat praiti, sa brahmana, the person who realizes the truth in this life and departs, he is called a realized person. He is called Brahmana, he becomes one with Brahman. He is called Brahmana because he is the wisest. He is what the name Homo sapiens. Otherwise not. So look at this gain and loss, what you are going to achieve. We are very, very restless people, impatient. Therefore, if we expect some result out of our endeavor, and if we don't get it, we think we are ruined. But those are wise people who do not care for immediate gain and loss. They look at the ultimate. That's what we said, that Edison said, I have never failed in life. I have only discovered 10,000 ways that did not work for me. So, what is the gain and loss? That should be calculated from that measure. There is a equation between life and time. If we have a goal in life, then our time will be measured in life scale. The person lived 20 years, 40 years, 100 years, lived. If we have a goal in life, our time will be measured in life scale. And if we do not have a goal in life, our life will be measured in time scale. 100 years life, what is that? A tree can live 1,000 years. That does not become a better human being. So, what is our understanding of life? What is the goal? Is it something immediate? Sometimes we have seen, the experience taught us that when we fail in something immediately, but we continued to remain steady, and finally we saw that it was good for us that we failed there. Otherwise it would have led us to a big disaster. God saved us that way. I would narrate to you one story what happened. In Germany, when I came there, I went through the old files to find out who were the people who were responsible for the establishment of this center. So I saw one gentleman who donated 300,000 D-Mark in those days, Deutsche Mark. He was a disciple of one of our Swamis, Swami Baneshananda of Graz, Paris. So in his dream he saw that his guru asked him to donate some money for the establishment of a center. And he got this dream several times. Then he believed that it was a direct instruction. So in psychology they say you cannot see the same dream twice. But our spiritual literature are full of such instances where someone sees the same dream several times. So here is an example that he saw the same dream several times. Then he donated in Germany. It's not that in some remote area where people are steeped in superstition. But here in Germany, we are scientists. Every lane and by-lane has a plaque saying that a Nobel laureate lived here. This is a country. And there this man saw dream several times, same dream. And he donated 300,000 euros to buy a house to these people. But within 7 days of this incident, he lost his whole business. He was a big businessman, rich one. He lost everything in his business. He became bankrupt. Then he became very upset. And he thought, because he donated this money to these people for a good cause, that was the cause of his disaster. Therefore, he came and claimed that money from these people. By the time these people also paid off the money for the house, then they consulted the lawyer. Lawyer said, you donated money, 50% of that you can return, more than that you can't. So they returned 150,000 dirham to him. Then because he was a very industrious person, so he somehow rebuilt his own empire afterwards. And that was a grudge he maintained throughout his life. When I inquired about him and sent a letter to him, requesting him to come or give me time, I want to meet him. He told this lady who carried this letter that he won't come because the misfortune fell on him because he donated money to Sri Ramakrishna for his cause. Then I was shocked. I said, what? Now look at the whole thing once again, and you will see it was Sri Ramakrishna who saved him. Otherwise, this 300,000 also would have been lost in that disaster. He took away at the right time this money from him so that afterwards he got back 50%, 150,000, and he could build up his business again. So I told this to the lady, and she felt very impressed, and she went and told this to him. He wrote a beautiful letter to me. Then I asked for some time. It did not happen. I left Germany for some place, maybe to India I went, and then or somewhere. I came to USA. So when I went back after 6 weeks, then he was in hospital and suffering from terminal cancer. So I went to see him. He caught hold of my hand and he asked me to sit down. And that time I did not know much of that language, but he went on fluently narrating about his experiences and his dreams about Vedanta and all these things. Others, those who understood, they told those things to me afterwards. But he felt so happy. He felt to be in the company of one of his family members like that. He was so happy. So things can happen that way. We are very, very impatient to judge things immediately. But sometimes it is true that if we are successful in something, that may lead to greater disaster. So just wait. Let us wait and see. So be patient. That is the thing we are taught by our scriptures, by the spiritual practices. To be very patient, to accept things as they come without breaking down under the pressure. As I have said that when our evolution matured, or got saturated at the point when we became humans, we started asking questions about ourselves. And that time it was the necessity that we should now evolve psychologically. Now I take the help of modern psychology which we trust in. That the Freudian psychology says that we have a part of our mind is called unconscious mind. a part of our mind, bigger part of our mind is unconscious. Jung divided that unconscious into two parts, collective unconscious and personal unconscious. And that is the time when it actually evolved and it matched with the ideas of our Yoga Sutras and Vedanta. We carry the impression of the species in us, that is collective, in the collective unconscious. And we carry the impressions of our past life, and that is personal unconscious. And while trying to discover the root cause of fear, they found that the thing called fear has a root in our personal unconscious, and that is called desire. Desire is the cause of our fear. We are talking about fear and anxiety. Desire is the root cause of our fear, that is the idea. The scriptures go a little bit deeper because they do not try to find a root cause at the surface level, or that goes deeper. Then we have seen in the scriptures how they have tried to locate the root cause. Then it will be easy to repair the problem at that place, at the source itself. Then it will be easy thing to do. Now, according to Hindu psychology and according to Vedanta and Yoga Sutras, this unconscious part is called subconscious. This subconscious mind is always awake, as we know that when a patient becomes unconscious by the administration of total or general anesthesia, they call Vollnarkose in German. So, general anesthesia, during the time of operation, what happens, what transpires, or what the talks go on in the operation theatre have been recorded by the subconscious mind of many patients. And therefore they have found that post-operation recuperation were delayed. If they talked about the case to be hopeless, then the recuperation became delayed. If they spoke enthusiastically about the case and spoke about the quick recovery, then the recovery became quicker. So there is something which is always ever awake in us. There are instances from the practical life. We have read from the Jim Corbett saga. He was a great hunter. Jim Corbett, you know, a lot of books are available. Those who have read Jim Corbett, they know he was a hunter or animal lover by his own right. He wrote some books like The Man-Eating Leopard of Rudraprayag, more man-eaters like that. He has given an example. There are several examples we can see in the life of Sri Ramakrishna that Swami Vivekananda wanted to test Sri Ramakrishna's renunciation of gold or money. So in his absence, Vivekananda put a coin below his mattress. Sri Ramakrishna was unaware of this conspiracy. He came and sat on the mattress and he jumped up as if being stung by a scorpion. How did it happen? How did it happen? Similar thing happened. That is Sri Ramakrishna's case. Now here in the case of this Jim Corbett, we have a beautiful story, a great narration there by him. Those who have read this, they will be fascinated to read the same book again and again. He says, once he hunted a deer and came back home. That was evening. He was not competent enough to carry that back home. So he located that place, left that field there, and came back home and called some people and informed them of that animal. So that morning they go and fetch it. But then they said, you must give some direction how to go. So give some marks, put some marks that in the morning when we go we can find it. Jim Corbett thought, okay, then let me go and mark that path. So by that time it rained a little bit. He left home with some markers and put those marks, came back home. Next day, in the morning, he had the habit of cleaning the boots, etc., before starting of the day. When he was cleaning the boots, he found that below the boots, there was some red mud sticking. It did rain that time, very little bit, a little drizzle. But he was immediately inquisitive of the existence of red mud. How did it come? Because he knew every inch of that forest. So he knew where this red mud is, the red soil would be. But he could never remember that he took that way. He took a different way to reach that. He was intrigued. This is the power of observation. Power of observation is that it is not seeing, it is observing. There is a nice incident. A teacher was teaching the students in the medical school that to be tolerant about anesthesia, formaldehyde. He said that I would show you something, I would test your tolerance. I dip one finger and touch that finger to my tongue and let me see what happens. You too start doing that. They all followed. And then they felt very awkward, very bad about this. So they all experienced something peculiar. But the teacher said, but I didn't experience anything. Then they argued, maybe you have been tasting it for many times, that is why you are immune to it. He said, no. I told you to be observant. I dipped my middle finger while I licked my last finger. I did not lick that finger. So you did not observe that. This is called observation. You saw what I did, but you did not observe what I actually did. So he immediately got intrigued how it came. Therefore, he went to probe into this. Now, nobody went there in the early morning, so he could follow his own footsteps. And he saw. He did not know how it happened. He saw that just before him one tiger walked along that road. And his footsteps followed, were on the footstep of the tiger, on the path mark of the tiger. And after a certain distance, the tiger perhaps understood his presence. And he went down and lurked behind a bush. Jim Corbett at that moment took a detour. He could never remember that he took a detour. He went through the field and crossed it, went and came back that way. He could not remember. Then he asked this question. He says, what do you say? Why it happened? He called it, we generally call it sixth sense, but he called it jungle sensitivity. That is a beautiful understanding of the situation. Jungle sensitivity. If we practice something regularly, that forms the part of our own psyche. Sri Ramakrishna practiced renunciation, not in theory, but in applied way. Therefore, he was able to detect his unconscious mind, subconscious mind was able to detect the presence of that quality. Jungle sensitivity. Because he was living in the environment of a jungle, he knew, his senses, his subconscious mind knew how to be cautious about impending dangers. And that is what is called jungle sensitivity. And that is the impression we create on our subconscious mind, which is ever away. That is why he was saved from this impending danger. So, this subconscious mind is always away. And this is the mind which helps us to create reaction. Swami Vivekananda has a great contribution in psychology because he located the existence of ego. Ego, we talk about ego, it has no color, it has no location, it has no form, it is difficult to know where it is, how it works. We ourselves do not know that we are egoist. Only people who live with us. So, here we see that Swami Vivekananda gives a definite way of our actions and reactions. He says the outside object, number one, then outside organs, the eyes, the ears, number two, number three, the brain centers, which are called senses. Number four, the mind. It is going inward, and that is the journey we are taking up. Number six is the intellect. The input, impulses come in and inputs are given to the intellect. Intellect has to decide on the reaction. As we have said in the morning or now, that for each and every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. But we have seen in many cases reactions are not equal. Opposite, of course, may not be equal. In most of the cases, the reactions are influenced. They do not follow the mechanical way as we understand. So the intellect has to decide on the amount of reaction. Then how does it decide? There happens a quick scanning of our hard disk, which is called subconscious mind. And the impressions are coming in clusters. And these impressions supply us with the immediate information that this person who gave you a blow took advantage of your goodness many times. It is a time now for you to pay him back in with interest. Like that. All this is not a friend, this is an enemy. So the impressions quickly supplies with the data. So in the process of taking a decision, Swami Vivekananda says, in the process of taking a decision about the reaction, there flashes the idea of ego. He uses these few words. There flashes the idea of ego. Ego has no form, it is an idea. And this idea is influenced. And this is the place where we need to work with the help of the conscious mind. But the unconscious mind helps us with its information, impressions, information, data. But the intellect has to decide on the data, but this ego here comes and intervenes and influences. Now, if the ego is reformed, then a hit for a hit theory does not work. Maybe turn the left cheek also. This will work. So the more reformed the ego, the better will be the response to the action or the input. So therefore it goes back in the same way it has come out. And the body is bound to take up that action, the direction given by the intellect. This is the passage which goes inside. And if this is the passage which goes inside, this is the way which helps us to reform our ego, unreformed ego, unreformed. We call it mind. So here, it is a study of ourselves. How do we respond to the demands outside? The Upanishad asks us to develop an attitude of a witness or observer. If we do not become an observer, then we lose the right to decide. Suppose there is a problem and I become physically or emotionally involved into that problem. And what happens? I can influence that problem according to my understanding and my interest. And if my ego is not reformed, then this ego will try to find its interest in that situation. So if I am not a witness, then what I am? I am part of the problem itself. I am part of the problem. Therefore I lose the right to take a decision, take an impartial decision about the problem. Therefore I need to consult a counsel. Counseling is necessary, third person, who can look at the incident from an impartial standpoint. So if we don't get any counsel, what do we do? We have to decide on this. Therefore our system is that we have seen in our childhood, we were taught the stories from the Ramayanas, from the Mahabharatas. Ramayana and Mahabharata, particularly Mahabharata, is a treasure house of stories presenting moral dilemmas. If you read any story, it presents all moral dilemmas. Sometimes it is difficult to decide on what should be the right way to come out of it. But in our childhood, if we are taught those stories with the wisdom, how to come out of it as an evolved human being, this has been taught there. So we are fed with enough information about such practical situations or moral dilemma in life. And therefore it will be easy for us when we face real, practical life challenges to decide on that and come out of it, because we have enough material or data already at our command to decide on that. So these are also impressions which are there in our subconscious mind, stored up, which is called memory or hard disk. That is there. It is available for us because it is already there, we know it. So the scriptures ask us to reform our inside so that we can become witnesses. We can look at our own problem and impartially solve it. I can give you an example from one of our monks who was an administrator. There arose a situation where he had to take an action against an employee, against a person. And the action would be that we should go to court to institute a case against that employee. So it was natural, because the monks as administrators are the watchdogs of the interest of society. They can't do otherwise. These monks